For whatever reason, it's taken me far too long to learn just how incredible the world of Japanese animation truly is. Maybe it's because of certain stigmas surrounding your average anime enjoyer. But all jokes aside, it's been a very strange journey that has led me to the point where I'm now writing 4,684 words about an anime movie. I remember watching Death Note and the first season of Attack on Titan way back in maybe like 2013 or so, and being so shocked at just how great anime could be, seeing as up to this point all I knew about anime was... Then I have no idea what I was doing for 8 years, probably just being a slave to the Marvel drip feed, and then suddenly, before I knew it, I was paying for Crunchyroll, binging the entirety of Attack on Titan twice, starting My Hero, catching right up to date with both Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, and even trying to get into Trigun Stampede, which was probably a mistake.
There he is!
A windmill?
Not milling.
Bruh. These shows really showed me the quality and variety that comes from the world of Japanese animation, and made me feel like an absolute idiot for ignoring it for so long. One night, during the dark, dystopian wasteland times known as Corona, me and my friends were inspired by the habits of Boris Johnson and his cabinet, and had a sneaky little get-together. I should point out by this point it was completely allowed to be hanging out. I just love pointing out that whilst people were literally unable to be with their dying members of family on their final moments, these guys were busy doing lines off of Boris Johnson's... Anyway, one night, my good friend asked me if I'd ever seen the Oscar-winning motion picture, Spirited Away. To which my answer was something along the lines of, "Nah, kid, is it any good, bruv?" To which he responded, "Oh my god! How had I never seen a film by Studio Ghibli until I was 21 years of age? I became obsessed. I've watched so many Studio Ghibli films since then, and I still have quite a few to go, and I've just been having the absolute time of my life. These films really highlight the unique side of animation and storytelling that I find a lot of Japanese animation explores. The breathtaking animation that pays attention to all the small little details, along with a deep exploration of themes such as spirituality, mindfulness, and our connection with things like nature and the importance of self-discipline and how that relates to who we are as people. I can't believe young me was sitting there watching Nightmare Fuel like hoodwinked. And similar animations that did nothing more than make fart noises and explore no deeper themes beyond, don't be bad, be good. And they animated everything as cheaply and uninterestingly as possible. And then films like My Neighbor Totoro was right there, analysing what it meant to be a child forced to grow up too fast under unfortunate circumstances, and what that means for all of us, and how we should all remember and try to recapture our childlike wonder and amazement with the world around us and the joy that that can bring. Now you may be thinking, well, that's all well and good, Mr. Reference Man person, but I'm pretty sure that I clicked on a video with Suzume in the title, and that's not a Studio Ghibli film. Yes, I know. I will definitely one day talk about a Ghibli movie in a video, and it's probably going to be Princess Mononoke because that's my favorite. However, I don't have a Netflix subscription right now, and I do have a Crunchyroll subscription. So... Suzume is potentially the best film that I watched last year. And I watched Five Nights at Freddy's last year, so that is high praise.
It's just a theory. On March 9th, I will be hosting my last theory episode, at which point I'll be handing off the channels to someone else.
I'd heard great things about Suzume ever since it first came out back in 2022, but it sort of just sat in my Letterboxd watch list until last December when I needed a hangover cure after my work's Christmas do because it was bad. I hadn't watched a single trailer, movie review, or anything really to do with the film other than this poster. Word of mouth from respected sources and the visual intrigue of this image alone was enough to get me on board. I'm quite glad that I went into the film this way, as after the fact, having watched the trailer when doing some research for the film, it actually spoils quite a lot of key elements of the film. So now, this is the official spoiler warning section of this video. I'm about to talk about anything and, believe me, everything to do with this, well, not everything, but most things to do with this film. And I really recommend that if you're interested in seeing this film and you don't know that much about it, that you just don't watch the video anymore. But do leave a like, or actually don't, I have like 30 subscribers, screw it. Okay, here we go. Suzume follows the story of a high school student whose mother died when she was 4 years old, so she now lives with her aunt. Life's pretty normal until, uh-oh, it's an anime protagonist. She follows this handsome young man, hoping to find out what conditioner that he uses, but instead she finds a door that opens to the ever after. More on this later. She can't actually enter this weird realm kind of place. Realm is a place. So she does what any teenage girl would do in this situation and, you know, turns a small statue into a live cat and kickstarts a potential end of the world. Presumably followed by, like, a TikTok dance, I don't know. She helps the GQ model from earlier, and, oh, this guy's name is Sota, by the way, and they close the door and stop this weird gaseous worm thing from causing an earthquake. Sota is kind of surprised that Suzume can see all of this, as everyone else is completely oblivious to this near disaster. Kind of in the same way that everybody is oblivious to the fact that China are actually stealing all of our information and manipulating. She finds an excuse to get him back to her house and in her bedroom to, oh look, it's a cat! That's probably not the pussy he was hoping for. Did I write that? It's the cat from earlier, and he can talk and apparently turn people into chairs? What? This kickstarts a race across Japan, as this little rascal keeps opening these doors and letting the elemental worms from this ever-after realm through, that this strange duo has to keep closing in order to prevent huge earthquakes from happening as they fall. Also, they want Daijin, who's the cheeky cat fella, to turn Sota back into a human so that Suzume can... so that Suzume can kiss, stand, and sit on him in the way God intended man and woman to. This script is so shit. We meet a host of colourful characters along the way, and in the end, Daijin resumes his place as a guardian of sorts, as a stone, and he keeps the worms at bay, and Sota and Suzume can finally share a hug. What? Man, I kind of wanted them to kiss. Right, that's enough setup. Let's analyze this bitch. In the same way that I gave Studio Ghibli's filmography so much credit for focusing on the smaller elements of both the story and the characters, as well as the animation, Suzume exhibits this same care and attention to detail across all of the film's elements. This film deals with alternate realities, elemental beings and gods, talking cats, ancient ritualistic orders, and a man who is chair. What? Yet, what shines through all of this absurdism and high-concept storytelling is the down-to-earth human story being told underneath it all. This film is filled with empathetic and sincere human characters that exhibit the ideal characteristics we want to see in one another, and they're all aiding in Suzume's journey. Acts of kindness and meaningful conversations take up the majority of the runtime here, with the huge set pieces revolving around this alternate reality threat few and far between. This makes this world feel alive and real, making us care that much more about the danger that's posed to it. It's very hard for a lot of movies to establish a world that we care about that feels relatable, along with a threat to it that feels, well, threatening. It's a bit of a weird example, but take Avengers Infinity War. Like, at the start of the film, we're not really made to care about these random few blocks in New York City that the opening conflict ends up tearing through. I mean, we barely see any civilians once the fight starts, and even the ones that we do, we don't know them, why should we care? Everyone's just making jokes the whole time anyway.
This guy's problem is starting. He's from space. He came here to steal a necklace from a wizard. Kid, that's the wizard. Get on it. Whoa!
Can you shut the fuck up?
And this isn't a franchise that has taken years and countless films to establish not only this world, but countless worlds across a multiverse. Suzume, on the other hand, really takes the time and care to build up the audience's relationship with the world that the film takes place in, filling it with beautiful scenery and fun, relatable characters. We care about this otherworldly danger that threatens to devastate the various regions of Japan that we visit throughout the film, as each door opening corresponds with a location or character that we've become fond of. For example, the door scene in Kobe within the amusement park. Oh, by the way, quick side note, this amusement park that's abandoned, it seems more alive and has more personality in this film than most densely populated areas that are in every other modern movie. This film blows my mind. But yeah, this scene feels especially tense, as the film purposefully spends multiple scenes prior to this establishing Suzume's connection with both Rumi and Miki through her enrollment into helping out at the night bar after she catches a free ride from one of them. This isn't just an overly forced way to shove in a light connection to Kobe for both Suzume and us, the audience, to care when the door appears. These scenes show us the vibrant and lively nightlife Kobe has to offer, even in the smallest of bars. It fills what would otherwise be an empty backdrop with cheeky married couples and flirtatious customers that are out to enjoy the night and try their luck. And, regulars who will sing with the manager and just so much more. In just a few simple scenes, we as the audience can tangibly connect with this world on a personal level, and because of that, we care so much more. This is just a single example of how much all of these smaller elements of the film can come together to create something incredible, and the film is littered with countless examples like this throughout its runtime. The smaller animation details that make the world feel alive and breathtaking, the small intimate scenes between characters that establish both themselves and their relationships to one another in a down-to-earth way that makes them more likable and believable, and the smaller themes that the story explores about our lives and their meaning, and how this is directly tied to our fears and doubts about ourselves, as through acknowledging our fears about maybe, losing people around us or not being loved enough by people, act as a realization about how important those things are and how we should cherish everything around us whilst we can. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and yes, this is going to get more pretentious. I am sorry. Right, let's talk about animation. You draw the person standing here, and then you draw a few months. Oh, look, they moved. That's cool. It's no secret that the Japanese understand animation probably better than anywhere else in the world. I mean, this isn't really coming close, is it?
I can't hear you. I don't see.
There's only so much I can say about how stunning this film is, which, has been apparent since the very first frame of footage that I've used in this video. The Ever After in particular is this vast wasteland of overgrown plant life and otherworldly skies that captures the juxtaposition of beauty and the forgotten that this dimension represents. The film opens with a young Suzume endlessly wandering through this realm. The skies above and the vast open greenery at first make us feel this sense of bewilderment and intrigue as to where and what this place could be. But then the laboured breathing of a child starts to disturb these positive feelings that we're at first experiencing. And then seeing what could only be described as a post-apocalyptic jungle and a lost child stumbling through it, yeah, we realise this place is far more complex and dangerous than we first thought. However, much like every other aspect of the film, it's really the smaller animation details that make this world come alive and burst with character. This film draws attention to the beauty in the abandoned aesthetic. Once thriving but now forgotten places carry a weight and personality in this film. Take the abandoned section of Suzume's hometown, lightly based on the Bungo Mori roundhouse. This abandoned village has become a thriving natural ecosystem, weaving its way in and out of the buildings and pavements. The plant life has almost reclaimed the land for itself, a visual representation of the speech that Sota gives when he closes the doors, that refers to Mother Earth's territory being naively believed to be human property, returning to where it should. This shot in particular being my favourite of this section, as the light almost appears to be emanating from the life outside, literally seeping through the broken windows, creating a harsh contrast with the dark shadows inside. Suzume being positioned as looking in from the outside also presents a nice little visual metaphor for her relationship to the journey that she's about to go on. Her front may be currently completely covered in the shadows of the normal human world, but she still feels as if she's outside of it all, looking in, not quite a part of it. As she turns away from this normalcy and into the world of discovery she's about to enter, the light of this more respectful relationship with the natural world shines upon her, and even from her by the end of the film, as she joins both her normal everyday life and the lessons she's learned from this journey to better enjoy her life and appreciate everything around her. I know you're probably sick of me yapping on about it, but again, it's all these smaller details in the animation here that shine. They create this authentic and realistic feel the story wants the everyday world to seem, whilst also highlighting the sometimes overlooked or underappreciated beauty within the everyday. A metaphor for the entire theme of the film, appreciating the love and beauty that already surrounds you and fills your life that you may overlook. I love little details like how this rusty pipe interacts with Suzume's hand as she uses it for balance, the marks that are left in the environment like skids in the mud as characters run and slide around. I love the way each character moves and interacts with the environment differently, showing you, things about them that don't need to be told. And of course, I love the gorgeous way that lighting and shadows bring this world to life, especially in the reflections of light in characters' eyes that runs as a constant visual motif throughout the film. The animation balances itself between these smaller details and the grandeur of the otherworldly elements to create a film that's everyday environments are just as magical as the ethereal ever after. I feel like I've gotten a bit too caught up in the seriousness of my pretentiousness. So, boobs, farts, and boobs. Let's talk about Suzume, our protagonist. The first time that we see Suzume, she is alone and wandering through the ever after. Lost. I don't really know why I'd put if she's alone and wandering through of course she's lost. Come on, me. This sums up her entire character in just a few short visuals. Suzume's entire existence is defined by both feeling lost and the loss of her mother, for which the latter is the causality of this lost feeling. As a 4-year-old daughter of a single mother, Suzume's connection to her mom is all that her little mind has ever known, as a guardian of entry into the world around her, so reliant on her guidance that when she tragically passes, Suzume physically cannot accept that her mother is dead, and instead searches for her for so long that she literally ends up in an alternate dimension, literally shutting herself behind closed doors from the real world. 13 years later, and Suzume is still shutting everybody out and not really living in the real world. She dreams nightly about the ever after and that search for her mother. It consumes her entire being. She doesn't really talk much with her friends or seem very bothered about her school, being easily willing to lie and skip her class the instant she sees even the slightest connection to her mother, that being Sota, as she feels like she recognizes him as having a connection to the ever after, which in turn is connected to her mother in her mind. But I like how she is not represented as some stereotypical edgy anime protagonist who feels entitled and above everyone else around them because they don't understand, man. She's charming and playful with her aunt.
I'm gonna be out pretty late. Huh? Do you have a date?
She's courteous and polite to the people around her. She smiles and takes in the breathtaking view atop the hill her house sits upon. I love how Suzume is the only one in her entire town to see the worm appearing and runs directly towards this danger. This does make her special and unique from those around her, but it's also a sign that her difference and disassociation from her own reality is dangerous, as running towards the worm and starting her journey with Sota to save Japan, she's directly putting herself in danger even if it's for the perceived greater good. The only person at the beginning of the film we see her have any connection to beyond just basic politeness is her aunt, which again is just a connection to her mother. Suzume, however, cannot accept her aunt as a surrogate or replacement for what her mother was to her, and therefore their relationship is strained and complicated. Suzume feels like she's nothing more than a burden forced upon her aunt, not allowing, her to live her own life. She projects her own feelings of disassociation onto her aunt. As this film does so often and so brilliantly, this is all summed up in a tiny interaction at the start of the film. Suzume's classmates comment on this packed lunch that her aunt makes for her, saying,
I can taste the love from here.
to which Suzume responds with a dismissive,
Right.
As she opens it, her classmates refer to this lunch as
One of your aunt's special lunches?
implying this kind of love is poured into all of Suzume's school lunches. Yet Suzume, who eats meal after meal, cannot taste that love others can clearly taste without even having a bite. She embarks on her journey and does a whole lot of
I return them to you.
I return them to you!
Close the fucking door.
and by the end of it all is a completely different character. So what happens along the way? The film keeps forcing Suzume to travel beyond her small horizons and interact with people she would never have had the chance to meet cooped up in a small town, shutting everybody out. Take this beautiful mini montage of Suzume and Chika bonding over gossip whilst performing various chores.
Speaking of ex-boyfriends, you have any? Ever date someone, I mean? Boys our age are nothing but trouble, I'm telling ya.
Huh? So, have you had a boyfriend before?
Wanna hear? No,
Absolutely
not again!
You're kidding me! He really did that?
Yep, sure did.
No way! I can't believe it!
I know, right? Boys are so dumb.
This illustrates that when exposed to other ideas and interactions other than her pre-established ones, Suzume can really come out of her shell and enjoy herself. She can share a heartfelt goodbye to a newly made friend, realize her growing feelings for Sota are okay and natural to explore, as well as, I guess, stepping on. She meets, makes connections with, respects, and both gets help and helps so many different people along her journey, and they all expose her to what she's been terrified of her entire life, embellishing and loving the world and other people around her, along with allowing herself to be loved and grow deeply connected to people other than her mother all those years ago. Through her own forced acceptance and struggles against tragedies such as losing Sota to the ever after, trying to accept love from characters around her like Daijin and her aunt, and, literally saving an entire country against a bunch of ancient bullshit. Suzume can learn to accept the original tragedy in her life, losing her mother, and still find a way to rise above that denial and grief, instead to make active choices in her own life that embrace both the world and the people around her who need her just as much as she now realizes she needs them. By the end of the film, when Suzume has found love for Daijin through accepting their love for her, saved the man she now also accepts that she loves, and sets her reality's relationship with the Ever After back in balance and therefore saves the entirety of Japan, she finds her younger self from all those years ago, lost in the Ever After. She goes up to herself and tells her that this self-imposed gloom that began right here with her younger self and goes on to shadow her entire life afterwards will subside. That it'll take her own agency to overcome her trauma and take her own life back and allow herself to both love and be loved. The younger Suzume also believes that this older version of herself is actually her mother, because Suzume has now grown to embody all of the amazing qualities that her mother represents to her and acts now as a symbol of stability and reassurance like she always did for her. This all culminates in the beautiful moment where she tells herself,
I'm here tomorrow.
as the Ever After's constant starry-filled night sky, for the only time in the film, finally transitions into a clear daytime sky, and the disassociated reality that this entire realm represents for both the story and Suzume herself finally resolves itself and becomes the actual real world around her. And it's just as beautiful as the ethereal Ever After, if not more so. Hey, did you know that this film is extremely well written? If you haven't seen it and for some reason are at this point in the video, I ask, 1, what the hell is wrong with you? And 2, leave a like. Unlike 99.9% of modern cinema, this film's writing does something insane and actually respects the audience. I started noticing just how well written this script was as the road trip-like montages began and scenes would transition from place to place, with the characters having conversations that naturally progress from location to location as if they've been talking along the way rather than waiting to say the next sentence when the camera starts rolling again. And it wasn't even something that I realized bothered me, but this shit drives me insane in movies, and it happens all the time.
So she reveals that these inverted objects keep getting sent back from the future, right? Okay. And she thinks that maybe these are like remnants of a future war and that the world might end, but like in the past. Okay. And so why did you continue that sentence in a completely different place? Oh, well, sometimes we're gonna do that thing where a single conversation kind of spans over different locations just to keep things dynamic on screen, you know? Right, okay, I mean, that does look good, but that means that the characters talk and then kind of pause their conversation, change locations, and then keep talking. It just keeps exposition scenes a little more fun to watch, you know? So then, what are you doing?
Stop framing conversations like this. It doesn't make any sense, and it takes the audience right out of the film, because if they think about it for more than like a second, they'll realize that by the film's logic, one character said one thing, usually a question, and then the other character made a smug face, and then they proceeded to travel in complete silence for like God knows how long, to then finally answer their question when it's more satisfying for the flow of the film, and it makes no fucking sense. God, that came out of nowhere. I'm sorry. Fucking hell, I got so worked up. And I know it may seem like such a small thing, but it perpetuates an attitude from the filmmakers that audience members aren't smart enough or perceptive enough to feel or think anything about their film beyond what they want you to, which is some disrespectful bollocks if you ask me. So yeah, Suzume doesn't do this. Take a look at this scene real quick.
What's wrong? He's moving by train. I have to hurry. Time for us to go our separate ways. Thanks for everything. Get home safely. Think this through. People will start to worry if you're gone for much longer.
It's fine. I make my own choices.
Along with having a Whisper of the Heart reference, which is enough to make me fall in love with this, see how we're respected enough by the filmmakers to infer that Sota and Suzume have discussed several different events that have previously occurred off-screen during their travels that factor into their resolutions made by the end of the scene and the conversation.
I'll need your help.
If you insist.
This is such a better way to convey naturally flowing conversations during scene transitions, and it sets the right precedent any film should follow for writing with the audience's intelligence in mind and respected as an element at their disposal to help tell a more complex story. When you allow the audience to piece little details together and connect the dots in their own head, it not only makes your film more fun and enjoyable to watch and actively take part in, but it also lets you, as a writer, highlight smaller elements and themes in the story that can add so much depth to your project. When you write with this philosophy in mind, you get to write all the amazing things that I've praised this film for, allowing the audience, or in this specific case, a slightly pretentious individual, who has taken so much time spouting utter nonsense about their love for this film, it lets them find a new type of appreciation for the world of filmmaking that reinvigorates their hopes that modern cinema can be something more complex and interesting than this shit.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
I know that when you see Madam Web, you're gonna love it. In fact, I think you're gonna see it twice.
Listen, when all is said and done, I'm not going to sit here and argue that Suzume is the second coming of cinema, or even that Suzume is a flawless picture, because it certainly isn't. I don't think that the weird order of closers and all the stuff revolving around Sota's grandfather with the ancient scrolls and, you know, all that is really that interesting or even well fleshed out. By the end of the story, I'm still kind of confused you know, what any of that side of the story even really means, which is why it wasn't really mentioned in this video at all. I just really wanted to focus on Suzume and everything revolving around her character, because that's what is the most interesting part of this film for me. And don't you worry, I deducted half a star on Letterboxd, which is the ultimate punishment for such a crime as having a part of the film that I didn't think was that interesting. But what this messy rant of a video is trying to say is that this film is special in the sense that more so than any other film that I watched last year, it highlights something in its smaller themes that I think is really interesting. It talks about the beauty and importance of all of the small parts of our lives that mean so much, and if we're not careful and truly appreciative of these things, how we can shut ourselves away behind closed doors and become frozen and stagnant like Sota as the keystone. And in the same way that Suzume opens the door for him and frees him from this, she also frees herself in order to do so. Appreciating the small things in life, like sharing a meal with a loved one, or taking in a beautiful scene like a glistening sun bouncing off the sea atop a hill filled with grandiose natural extravagance, down to allowing ourselves to love and be loved, gives our lives the meaning we sometimes feel is lost when focusing on the constant drudgery of our demanding day-to-day lives. I myself have a deep personal connection to this philosophy on life. I legitimately got distracted at work for 5 minutes straight the other day, just staring out the window at the most breathtaking sunset, and I found it incredibly hard to explain to everyone else in my office why I thought it was so beautiful and how, you know, like, they weren't even looking, and I was like, this is incredible, what are you talking about? We all get so caught up in needing to have bigger things happen to us. More money, a better job, bigger holidays, better friends, more attractive partners, and so on and so forth, that we forget to take even a second every now and then to just look around at all the amazing things that we already have and can be happy with. I think this silly animated film about giant worm gods and magic doors oozes with this love for all the small things in life, proving just how much they really matter to us all, and maybe, just maybe, how they could save the world and our lives. That was really pretentious. Wow, you made it to the end of the video. That is a solid attention span. Thank you so much for watching and hopefully enjoying. I hope it was any good. Yeah, I've never worked on something this long form before in terms of a YouTube video. I've never analyzed an entire feature-length film before, let alone, you know, something as complex as this film. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to my ramblings. I have 2 other videos that I've made previously on this new channel that I think, you know, they're alright. I'd say they get better with each one, and hopefully this is better than the last. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.